Hi, I'm Haze. Welcome back to my Procreate Basic series. Today is episode 6, and in today's tutorial we're learning all about brushes. So today we'll be learning how to paint, smudge and erase, how to load brushes into them, and how to adjust the size and opacity, the quicklime, the streamline, and how to create, import and share brushes and brush sets, and then also a very important thing called reset points. So let's get started, but before we do, remember to like, comment and subscribe. So to begin learning about the basics of brushes, we're going to launch Procreate, and this is what we have here today. So let's get started. So now I want to talk about the 3 tools that we can have brushes loaded in it, which is the painting tool. So here we can have all our brushes in the painting tool, the smudge tool, and also the eraser tool. They're actually using the same brushes across all the 3 tools, but you need to load the brushes in each tool first before you can effectively use them to paint. So for example, let's say if I want to sketch something, I can just use my painting tool and sketch something here, or I can use it to paint. So this is the function for the painting tool. That means you can use it to paint only. Then after that we have this smudge tool, and you need to load the brush into the smudge tool in order for you to smudge. So now if I smudge, you can see that it's smudging like a very weird effect here. So, and that's because you need to be able to have a proper brush loaded into the smudge tool first in order for it to work. Now if I tap on this smudge tool, I can see that the flat pan is loaded for this smudge tool, and this is not a very good smudging brush. So I'm going to load to one of my own brushes, which is a smudge brush pack. You can download this from my website, and I'm going to just use this Insane Softy smudge brush. So I've loaded this for my smudge tool already. And now if I smudge it out, you can see that the effect is a lot smoother depending on what you want. So it depends on what kind of brush you load into the smudge brush in order to get the effect that you want. You can even have like a sharp smudge like this. So when you have your Procreate for the first time, the first thing you want to do is to test out all the brushes for all 3 of these. So now let's say I need to erase. So to erase, I will have to tap on the erase tool and pick a brush to use. So if I want to erase softly, I can use the airbrush and I can just erase softly like this. But if I want something that is sharp, I can use the sketch brush. This is also from my brush pack. So using this, you can actually control what kind of brushes you use for all 3 tools. And today we're going to look at these 3 tools in detail. So now when you pick your painting tool, smudge tool or the erase tool, you can see that there's a slider on the left side here. So this slider, you can actually drag it to wherever you want it to be. So just drag it to a position that you're comfortable with using, and then we are going to explore these 2 sliders. So you can see here, if you slide it up and down, you are actually changing the brush size to small and to big. So this is very straightforward. And this one is actually an opacity slider. So if I slide it down halfway, I have like a transparent kind of build up here. If it's even lower, I can barely see anything anymore when I'm painting. So you can use this to control like how much build-up of paint that you want on your canvas. But for the smudge tool, yes, you can adjust the size over here, which will make sure that you are smudging in a small area like this, or in a big area like this. And then this opacity tool is quite useful. Like for now, if I smudge, right, let's see, if I do it, I will get something like this. But if I turn down the opacity, I actually get less of a smudge, and it's a bit more gradual. So if you want less of an effect when you are smudging, you can play around with the opacity slider right here. So a lower opacity means you have to really push very hard in order to smudge anything. Same goes for the eraser tool. You can control the size here and also the opacity here. So if I turn my opacity down and I erase, it's gonna be a very light erase, and you can still see some of the pinks here, even though I've already erased it a couple of times. So if you keep wanting to feather something, you can have the opacity lower. Now we're going to talk about Procreate's Quickline. So let's say right now I have my brush ready for sketching. So this is what I get if I sketch. So let's say I want to do a straight line just across. And if I just draw it like that, I might get a very wobbly line. So the trick to get a really straight line is just to start from one end and go to the other. Hold your pencil and it will snap straight for you. And also you can use this function to create curves. So let's say I want to create like a half moon. I have a very lousy curve here right now, but when I hold it, it will become smooth and I can drag it to resize it as well. So it's actually quite useful in that way. So when we can do curves, it means that we can do circles as well. So we can actually do a quick line circle. So I'm just going to roughly draw a circle here and hold for it, wait for it to snap, and now we have like a smooth circle. But this does not snap to a perfect circle, so it's a bit stretched over here. So that means that you can also do ellipses like this and it will snap. So to create like a perfect circle, I will actually use one of my tools that I have. So I created this tool last year to help artists get perfect circles in Procreate, which you can purchase from my website, but it's out of stock right now because I couldn't ship them out of my country at the moment. So to do the perfect circle, all you have to do is to put the template down, draw the circle and hold it, wait for it to snap, and then once it snaps, you have like a perfect circle right here. So this is how you use the template to create like a perfect circle. Other than the curves and the circles, what else can you do with the quick line? So if I try and do an S curve, let's see what happens, and I hold it, you can see it automatically creates like a 90-degree kind of line. So you know that Procreate does not support quick line for S curves. So let's say I still want like this curve, but I want it smooth. So what can I do? I'm gonna do like a double. So one C here and one C here. So you can use this to do S curves if you really want to use their quick line feature. And now we're going to talk about Streamline. So what is Streamline? If I tap on any brushes here, this is actually the brush studio where you control all your settings for your brush. I can see that there is a Streamline setting. So basically, if I set it to 0 and I draw, it's gonna retain every movement of my Apple Pencil. Whether if it's bad or whether if it's wobbly, it will still retain it. But watch what happens if I turn the Streamline all the way up here. You can see that the strokes are gradually changing to be smoother. So how this affects the drawing experience is when you are drawing, you automatically smooth out your curves for you. So for example, look at how my Apple Pencil are moving and how the brushstroke is responding to it. You can see it's automatically smoothing for you, even though I might not be actually drawing such a smooth line, because actually I'm drawing something like this. It's not perfect, but when it's helping you to smooth it, it can actually help you control your brushstroke a lot more. So this feature is usually good for calligraphy brushes. So let's say if I want to draw something really precise and smooth, so it's all smoothed out already for me. And watch what happens if I just remove everything. You can see everything just goes really bad. This is not very ideal for sketching if you turn it all the way up, because sometimes you want the strokes to lay down at the position where you want it to lay down, right? So usually I set it to about 12 or 13 so that I can still control like where I lay down my strokes. So for example, you see here, if I am using 12% right now, you see that there's a defect here because of the way that I move the Apple Pencil. So the Streamline is not helping me here at all. But if I turn the Streamline up to about 64%, you see it's automatically like really smooth the way I line it. So it depends on your preference really on how much of streamlining that you need to help you when you are sketching and how tight you want your sketch to be. But the more streamline that you have, the less responsive it is to do like small details. You see, I'm clearly following like the outline of the eye itself, but the Streamline made it curve a little bit more inward. So if I turn it off, you can see that it's a lot more jagged, but it's following the contour a lot better now. So this is how you can manipulate your brush to create the effects that you want. And usually if I'm doing lashes, so to help myself, I will actually set my Streamline to a bit higher. And then now if I sketch the lashes, it will actually be perfect. Like this. no matter how bad I'm actually sketching. So it can be like a crutch for you to use if you are not used to getting really smooth line with your brushes at the moment. And now we're going to talk about the brushes itself. So I'm not going to go into detail about the brushes settings. I'll create like a separate video for this. But I'm going to talk about like all the brush sets that we have. So usually you get like somewhere around here once you launch Procreate, and then you can create like your own brush set. So to create your own brush set, you just have to tap on the plus sign here. You can access this tool by dragging down, and then you can have the plus sign here. When you tap, you have your own set. And then once you're here, you can create your own brush. I can tap on plus here, and then I have this default setting already. So to quickly create a brush, you need to go to shape and grain. So once you are in shape, you just tap on edit and then import. So when you're importing, you can import a photo, a file, or choose from the source library. So the reason why a lot of artists love Procreate is because of this source library that is very comprehensive. So let's say I'm just going to create like a chalk pencil. So I'm just going to pick this charcoal block, and then this is my shape right here. So you can see right now, if I go back to the stroke path, and when I paint, it's using the chalk pencil to paint already. And then I can also create a grain. So in the grain, I tap on edit and import. Let's go back to source library. So the grain is basically like the texture of the brush stroke. Just now we have the shape of the brush stroke, and now we want to add texture to the brush stroke. So I'm trying to create like a chalk pencil, and maybe I want it to work on a canvas texture so that it will simulate like I'm doing chalk on canvas, right? So once you've done that, you can see that the effect has changed greatly. And now we have like a chalk pencil. So this is how you can create your own brush. And if you don't like what you see here, you can always just delete it, and delete the brush set itself by tapping on it. Tap on delete. So you can see I have a lot of custom brushes, which I also share online in my website where you can download. So now I'll show you how to import brushes after you have downloaded them. For example, I've already downloaded everything into my Dropbox. So all I have to do is drag my Dropbox to the side. You can also drag your iCloud to the side. And then let's just import the glitter brushes. Okay, so this is my glitter brush pack. So in order to import, you need to have Procreate brushes first, which you can see by here, dot brush set. This is actually a format that is only recognized by Procreate. And if it's a brush set, it's brushes. If it's dot swatches, then it's a color palette, and dot Procreate is the Procreate file itself. So to import is really simple. I'm just gonna drag this and drag it here. So it will say importing. So you have to make sure that your project window is open in order to do this. I just tap on any of these tools, and then right on top is the brush set that I just imported. So now I can use the brush set on my painting. It's as easy as that. But one thing to note about imported brush set is that usually it does not state like, is this a painting brush or a smudge brush or an eraser brush? That's for you to find out, and sometimes it's labeled out. So make sure that you find out more information about the brush set first before you use it. Like for example, in my portrait brush pack, everything is for painting or erasing except for the last one, which I've labeled it as smudge. So if you downloaded this brush pack, you know that you need to load this smudge brush under the smudge tool. So if I load it, then now I have a smudge tool that I can smudge. And then if you want to share just one brush, like just this sketch brush, you can just slide right and tap share. So if you share this, the format will be dot brush instead of dot brush set. But if you tap here and share, this will give you like a dot brush set because you're sharing the entire set of brushes here. So this is how you share brushes. So the first thing that you should do when you've downloaded a brush pack is to go into it and check the last tab here about this brush. So this would actually show you if there's any author here. I didn't do this because this wasn't available back in the days. So you have to check if there's a reset point. So if there's no reset point, the first thing you need to do after you downloaded your brush set is you need to create a new reset point. Okay, so now there's a reset point here, and you can use your brush normally. But if you change settings here like Streamline, let's say I change some crazy settings here. And then now the brush completely does not behave like it used to be. So I'm like panicking because I lost all the settings for the brush already. So this is where the reset point comes in handy. You can just go back to about this brush and tap on the reset point. So this will revert the brush back to the original state where you just downloaded it, but you first need to create the reset point first. Similarly, if you have made changes to these brushes, you can create a new reset point to have multiple instances of the brushes that you want to keep so that you can just easily switch between them. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned a lot in today's tutorial. In tomorrow's tutorial, we will be learning all about actions. So I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!